Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. So my intention would have been normally to come online and play some Crusader Kings around 7 o'clock on a Friday. This is probably the last Friday. Well, that's not true, actually. There's one more Friday I'm going to be able to do that. The school year is going to be starting basically next Monday, so I'm done as far as holidays are concerned. Obviously, we've been streaming quite a bit recently because of the holidays, but I will be back to the usual grind. But with that in mind, I still want to try and do my best in terms of one, delivering content, and then number two, doing my best to sort of match between what I've got in what I've got for school and what I want to do for you guys for Twitch. So one of the things I'm actually going to be trying out, I'm actually going to be trying out a new bot for Team Panda. So let's start with that. Just 1 second. Sorry about the wait here. So rather than, put up the music and things like that, because this is a little bit of an impromptu stream to, just kind of to make up for the fact that New Year's kind of messed around with my sleeping schedule a bit, and to, try and do something at least for the people who are hanging out. I thought maybe unleashing one of these new games that I've been trying would be a way to go. And actually, it's kind of cool. They're already saying that I'm playing the game, which is nice of them. Unfortunately, I don't know very much about this game, so whether or not I get a few people to hang out tonight, or whether I wind up doing this on my own, I figure it might be, I don't know, it might be a little bit fun. The thing that I like the most here is this... I'm not quite sure how I want to stream this game yet. Like, obviously, it'd be better if I can do matches, but I'm still learning it. And so I thought, I did want to do some streams where I wound up doing the tutorials and things like that. But it also there doesn't seem to be a ton of advantage to necessarily redoing all these tutorials that I've already completed, rather than maybe just explain the game as I sort of understand it and move along. One of the things that I was a little hesitant to do for streaming this was, obviously, anybody who enjoys this game is probably going to be absolutely disgusted with how inefficient I am at this whole business. And for whatever reason, the Panda Coalition retweeter doesn't seem to want to help. So much for that. All right. Hey, Kitch22. Sadly, your audio is out as you're on 4G. Well, that's a shame, because this is a boring stream without audio. Just taking a minute to address Kitch. So actually, it's worth mentioning that Kitch is a recent addition to Team Panda. Why is it not allowing? Here we go. Going crazy with my Nightbot commands. But yeah, so he's a recent addition to Team Panda. As always, whenever I'm looking for something new to watch, I tend to follow around on this team and check out what I can. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different along the lines of Prismata. So first of all, alpha in develop, graphics not final. A bit of an interesting backstory to this game. It's a bunch of former MIT students who got together and decided that making games was a little bit better than solving the world's problems. Or perhaps solving games is solving, or making games is solving the world's problems. Very interesting way of going about making games. I was a little bit suspicious because of the, it's very easy to just kind of put up a bunch of fluff on Kickstarter, and especially when you have something like, former MIT grad students make a game. That's obviously a really good, it's like obviously a really good way of of hooking people in without really doing anything, right? So, like I could say if I wanted to try and sell up the stream, I could say something like, oh, grad student, economist, yeah, we do economics things on the stream. Well, that doesn't mean anything, right? But it gets people paying attention. So with that in mind, I was maybe a little overly cynical about such a project, but I'm always looking for fun new games to play, right? So I checked out their Reddit. They actually wound up giving me a key, which I thought was very nice. And I think when I say they have an interesting way of going about making games, I think the thing that's really great about this is they're very open about what they want to do. They have a very clear design philosophy. They sort of say that strategy hasn't necessarily developed quite the way that they've seen other genres. And they're really going in depth. I mean, obviously, if you get into MIT, you're obviously really, really smart. But they have some really good ideas in terms of what they want to see a game work with. I'm maybe not 100% sold, so I've been trying out about 3 different strategy games off stream for a while. I won't necessarily say this is the best out of the 3, but that is more to praise the one that I'm playing rather than condemn the Prismata. So it's probably not the best introduction that I could have given to this game, but I'll maybe address a couple of things that come up quite a bit about this game. Hey, Apuchi. Great to see you here. A couple things that seem to come up a lot in descriptions about this game that maybe aren't necessarily true. A lot of people call it a card game. I think the developers are very clear in saying that they don't like to think about it as a card game, although you can sort of see why, right? You're not going to have any random draws. You are going to be constructing things out of these fixed areas. And I think by their descriptions, they said they wanted to take some more of these RTS elements and sort of distill them down into an essence and turn it into this interesting little turn-based game. And in that respect, I think they've worked very well. I think the idea here is that you have 2 evenly matched opponents. This is obviously a tutorial, so maybe I've got a lot more here than what you would start off with in a normal game. But got 2 evenly matched opponents. The random element would be what these extra units are. You can always rely on these units on the left. The way that the game is sort of set up is that you can tab between these 2 things here, but personally I don't see a big disadvantage to a compressed version. And actually they have hotkeys for these, but I've just been using mouse, and especially because I'm doing voice-only commentary, I suspect it's probably a little bit more beneficial if I have at least some activity on the screen here. And again, I will get around to playing the game, but I'm sort of trying to explain where I came from. So the look of the game is obviously very early. Certainly not a bad looking game, but it's maybe nothing special. It's sort of what you would expect in a web-based game when you start off. Although again, anybody who can make art looking like this is well far and above beyond whatever I can accomplish. And again, you sort of see, eventually you'll want to show base set. You won't want to show base set because it takes up space. In real games, you use a lot more units than can end up on the table. Okay, that's great to hear, Apuchi. And thank you for hanging out. Actually, I realized as soon as I looked at the lobby and it started showing off everybody, showing off that I'm streaming this game. I mean, there was a side of me sort of saying, okay, maybe I should take down the label, because I'm really learning the game at this point, and part of this stream is about sort of introducing people to things that I find new and interesting. But I thought, that's not very fair to the Prismata people, because obviously if this game is any good, people are going to want to know about it. So I'm making the assumption that the members of the community are as friendly as you are and are not going to flame me too much for being a complete ignoramus. But when I'm talking about the connection to real-time strategy, real-time strategy, I'm maybe not so good at StarCraft, but you get this idea, right? Everybody's sort of building their bases, you sort of have these equally matched opponents, nobody can quite make the break, and then eventually you want to break the base, and then you start, it's like getting a rook in the back, or well, one of the back 2 rows in chess, and you just start munching pawns, or here you'd kind of punch drones and hurt their economy, and basically damage them to a point that you can take advantage of the numbers in that. This game is definitely very satisfying to watch, especially when the developers are kind of explaining some games that they played on their own. I realize that there's quite a bit that I don't know about it, but interests me. So I guess we'll do this tutorial mission, and I'll try and explain what I'm doing here. Streaming at a really dead time for this game's audience, but you made the stream title in about 12 hours you'll have 10 to 20 viewers giving you advice. Chat can get kind of ridiculous because there's a lot to learn. Good to hear, Abuchi. Yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to be streaming this, actually. I wasn't originally going to stream tonight because I normally do Crusader Kings 2 on Friday evenings, but I haven't been able to sleep, so I thought I'd maybe just throw up, a stream and do something a little bit new. And Akish22 is on my stream team. He is in a different time zone than me, and there's a couple of other regulars of the stream who live in different time zones, so I thought we'd go there. So anyways, in this scenario, you have too few drones to support the full production capabilities of one Animus and one Blast Forge. However, units in the second tab, like Pixies and Perforators, can help you avoid wasting blue and red resources while you construct more drones. So, first thing we'll do is we'll worry about our economic concerns. One nice feature they've added in the game here is instead of individually clicking all of these drones, and as Apuchi indicates that apparently the game is going to have quite a few units on the table once we start playing real games, so I suspect I'm probably going to be going from the far left of the screen and just swiping all over. But basically you can click and hold to activate an ability. A little bit kind of like tapping a unit in Magic, I suppose. And sort of the game here has already told us what our situation is. So you've got renewable and, well, maybe it's not best to say renewable and non-renewable. I'll call them constant resources. So in this case, gold and green, or I guess they'll probably call them stored if that's the term that they're using. So gold and green wind up being something that you build up over time. So if I wanted to lose, I could just end the turn, end the turn, end the turn, and I could keep clicking my drones, and I just wind up getting gold each turn, and this number would keep going up. Same deal with green. I would do that by the conduit. There are also some other items in this game that will generate green, but in this case, our only option here is the conduit. And as you can see here, that it takes 4 gold to build up. So again, you've got sort of the same trade-offs as far as, well, any strategy game, right? That maybe you don't need to worry about time. You've got a turn-based game, although obviously if I was doing this to a live opponent, they would be justifiably angry with me. But in general, you've got gold to start off with. How you decide to spend that opening gold is going to put you in position. Do you want to build more drones so you can build more gold? That's fine, As with anything, you can always invest your income into some capital and get some earnings, but you also want to eat. And of course, your opponent is not just going to stand there and let you build yourself up. Another thing that'll maybe affect your ability to build drones is drones themselves require energy, which you get too. Energy is an example of a resource that needs to be consumed every turn, otherwise it's wasted. So here it says blue, red, and energy are discarded. So in this case here, this energy is coming from my 2 engineers. And so what I might want to do if I want to really go crazy on my drone production, I would maybe build an engineer, and then I could build 3 drones a turn. Or maybe I build 2 engineers and I can build 4 drones a turn. But of course, that is going to be assuming that I get 12 gold to do so. Another nice feature of engineers is that they are something of a defensive unit. This little plus sign that you see here indicates their health. And so if I were to be attacked, I would be able to put my engineers up in front to protect myself from being damaged. Of course, the flip side here is that if I lose all of my engineers, then I can't build up my drones, which is the whole point of this mission here. I don't think I'll send these guys off to attack yet, but let's just figure out what we're doing. So it's telling me that I want to build Pixies and Perforators just to not waste my energy. But if I do both of them... Oh, wait a minute. There's Perforator and Pixie. Okay, they're actually relatively cheap. But I can't build 2 because then I can't build a drone. In this case, it's actually... Yeah, so in this case, I think I'm just going to go for the Pixie and build 2 drones. I don't know, again, because I haven't played against a real opponent, I don't necessarily appreciate all of the differences between 2 different strategies, but I definitely am sort of the side that I like building a lot of drones as much and as early on as I can, because of course they give me options. Oop, I forgot to... Okay, so I was going to wind up clicking these... clicking these people. So it takes energy to use the Electivore, so I don't want to do that. my perforator, I can click and pay one of these blood. So actually it would have made some, or red, would have made some sense here to actually build another perforator so I can wind up using the two instead. Anyways, I'm going to stick with my decision here. This is going to add some attack power. Now this is only going to take out one of the engineers, so they can just spend the time building another one if they wanted. But the idea here is just putting a little bit of pressure on while I build myself up. And again, because the red is going to be expended, or sorry, going to be discarded at the end of the turn, I already have one little bit of inefficiency because obviously I'm not using up the right. Well, okay, you know what? Let's get out of my old habits. Let's instead build another perforator. This way we can use the Electrovore. I don't have the money to build another drone. I mean, this is what the game sort of seems to be directing me to. In this case, I'll build the Pixie. I'll have two perforators, so I'm going to be able to use up the red each turn. And in this case, I only build one drone, which again is not something I normally would have done, but in this case, this is a more efficient use of my resources. So now the advantage here, of course, is that there's 2 attack power, which means that I'm going to take out their 2 engineers, and then the next turn, unless they build something like a wall or something that has a trait, I believe it's called it's vigilance or something like that. Prompt. Blocks immediately. So this is going to also force somebody to, in this case here, it's going to force them to make a decision about how they want to defend, or maybe they just say it's like, you know what, I'm okay losing a couple of drones to this. So, anyways, we commit the turn. I don't decide where the attacks go in this case, just because they get to talk about their defenses. So in this case here, we have the doomed wall, which there are two ways you can wind up defending in this game. If you get attacked on the, let's say the plus side of things, you need to, it's basically an all or nothing proposition. So this wall is going to be lasting for 3 turns. Now, there's a few different ways that you can utilize it. Right now, I have got 4 attack. Oh, that's really good then. So what they're actually going to wind up doing... Oh, let's not do that then. Oh, but I have to make it a credible threat. Neat. Okay, so the idea here, I'm doing 4 attack. Now the catch with the Pixie, I probably should have actually read the description of the unit, so this is I have to sacrifice it to accomplish what I want to do. Activate my drones to get my returns. In fact, it might even make sense to build a couple engineers at this point. Eventually they're going to build attacking units, and this is, I mean, with my Electrovore, I'm actually running into a situation where I'm not necessarily, I have kind of a couple of bottlenecks, and so in this case it'd be nice if I can do these attacks, which the engineers are going to be giving me. So it has 2 points. It serves a defensive purpose as well as an offensive one. But the idea here, I've created 4 attack power. So you're faced with 2 possibilities. Either you give up the doomed wall, at which point your engineers are safe, or actually in this case I don't believe they can block because these are being built. But in a situation here, they could defend with 2 of the engineers, or even 1 of the engineers, which would be the better play, and then soak up the 3 damage of the doomed wall. If I just attack with 3 power though, the problem here is that the doomed wall absorbs the 3, and then next turn it comes back with its full health. So in this case, what you need to do is you actually need to build up your strength to make good on sort of the threats that you're making. If I just sit at 3 attack power the whole time, then I'm not getting anywhere. They're just hiding behind their walls and they're safe. He's defending with a drone instead of an engineer, so all that he'll lose is 1 drone. Ah, okay, that makes sense actually. I always kind of just assumed that the drone wouldn't do anything. Based on the tutorials, I don't think they've ever wound up using drones for defense. So I always just kind of assumed that they were always maxed out for production, but that's actually a good point. You can use it up there, so I didn't even notice that. What Apucci pointed out, because I'm not paying attention, he left one of his drones open. So in this case here, where I messed up with the engineers, he left one of his drones free. So again, the situation here, loses the drone. I've committed everything. I had to give up a Pixie, but that's not the end of the world because I'm not using that blue anyways. And in this case, he doesn't lose his wall. But again, it's still something that I want to do because I wind up hurting him drone-wise. So we commit. There's another type of unit here. They have a defensive ability. And, sorry, they don't. It's not a defensive ability, but like they have basically permanent health. And in this case here, you can also use those for defense, but the drawback with something along those lines, of course, is you can't keep going. You can't keep going back to that well. At some point, it's gonna fall, and it's probably gonna cost you more than you want. Okay, so I guess I need to make some decisions. I mean, I'm happy ignoring the perforators for a bit. I should probably just use the pixie because that's what I've always been doing. What does it cost me to build an electrovore? Oh, you know what? We're not going to do that. Let's build another one of these. This is mostly so I can take more advantage of my energy. And you know what, it doesn't actually make any sense to attack with these because... I don't actually feel like... Okay, this is a bit of a tricky turn for me to figure out. So... maybe build... I'll head back and see what I've got to work with. I mean, it's nice that I'm able to put pressure on and hurt the engineers and such, but I'm only going to lose one. Hey, Arisu Mizuki. I don't suppose you're any friend of Kish22's. If you are, thank you very much. Oh, and here we go. Usually you don't want to do this with drones, but they are an emergency defense. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would want to hang on to the doomed wall over losing one drone for sure, especially because he's able to build 2 in this turn anyway. Okay. So it'd be nice if I could kill an engineer, but that sort of puts me on... I don't really feel like I'm accomplishing a whole lot just building one drone every turn. Oh, another Prismata player. Thank you very much for the support, guys. And sorry, this is probably a very dull introduction to Prismata. This is one of the things that's been kind of neat. I actually wound up learning Crusader Kings 2 on this stream. So it's kind of interesting to try and vocalize all of the decisions that you're making over the course of a game like this. But I'm definitely feeling very self-conscious with some with some seasoned players in here. So, you know, before I kind of talked about how a particular path looked good because it was sort of the way that the developers had sort of intended things to go. If I throw everything in, then that leaves me with 1 blue and some energy. Well, you know what? I think I will go for this, even though it means I'm not able to do the same trick next turn. Just waiting in the queue. That's good. Yeah, so actually, if people are winding up waiting in queues for this game, that's probably good news for me. If I ever need to feel good about myself and boost the numbers, I can just turn on Prismata. I have a little more respect for you guys than that, though, so... Alright. So he's building 2 pixies, which means that next turn I'm going to have to worry about 2 damage, which is fine. I can sort of suck that up with the engineers. Now the doomed wall goes away next turn. So the plan, like what I did last time around, was just sort of accepting that I wasn't going to be able to do anything to hurt him this time around. And instead I would sort of use it to build myself up. So let's see if there's anything interesting I can do with the resources that I have. I kind of feel like I've got something I can do with these drones, but let's... So I've actually got a fair amount of energy, which I'm going to wind up losing to these pixies. But with that in mind, let's do a couple of these electrovores. Build a pixie as is our custom, and then do a drone. So, I mean, I can send this thing to attack, but it's not actually going to wind up doing anything. Probably a good way of showing how the doomed wall works. So the doomed wall did not die to the 1 damage, but it's the end of the turn, so... Alright. So, we're on the next turn. I need to assign the defense. Actually, does that make sense? I'll just hit the end. Okay. So, I definitely want to put some more engineers on the table. One, of course, because there's going to be some more attacks coming in, but also because I am sort of relying on these electrovores to do some heavy lifting. I don't actually have enough energy to use all of them, which is a bit of a shame. So again, I can commit the 4 damage, so again, this creates a threat to his doomed wall, which means either an engineer or a drone winds up dying. You can put damage onto the perf, and it will be full healed. I don't quite follow what you mean by perf, Hildrad. And you can go back and fix it if you want. Oh, the perforator, you mean? Oh, yes, that's a good point, actually. So what Hildrad was talking about was I could have, instead, this would have been a better play, I could have had one of the engineers get attacked. So that would be 1 damage soaked up. And then I use the perforator here. Wait a minute, I had it committed to an attack. But it's still probably not the best way to go. But yeah, so the idea here is that, whether he's talking about the previous turn or the next one, so I can sacrifice 1 engineer, sort of as what's going to happen in this turn. And then the perforator absorbs the remaining damage. Of course, this time around, there's only going to be 1 pixie, so I just make sure that I have a perforator set aside, or the electrovore. I assign that to defense, and in this situation, I don't wind up losing any units, because until he actually builds up 2 damage, I don't have to worry about anything. So again, we're sort of facing him with a problem in this case. Well, I say him. I mean, I use the image here, but this is clearly a computer. Yeah, thank you, Hildrad. I think probably I understand what you were saying. But the idea here, again, is because we sort of... This is the thing that kind of appeals to me about this game, actually, is the way that you sort of need to build around these particular units. So even though this thing dies in 3 turns, I sort of need to get over this hump of 4 damage. Otherwise, I'm wasting resources on these attacks that aren't going to work. So again, if they open up a drone, then they use that. But in this case, it's likely going to be an engineer that takes the hit. I lose the pixie, which I wind up rebuilding anyway. And what do I do with the rest of the money? I can't build gold. I guess the question here is, does it make any sense for me to build any more of these? At the moment, no. I think probably just to stack up on some engineers is the better way to go. And eventually I want to do things like build Tarsiers and Rhinos, because they sort of give me a little bit more of a consistent attack power. I'll probably do that next turn. So I'll just throw it all into engineers, which gives me far more energy than I need, but again, it opens up my options. Hey, Game King 521. You can actually go back, you believe... Oh, that's right. Okay, so 2 damage, 1 on the engineer, 1 on the perforator, and defense. Try building a steel splitter. Ah, because it just gives me free attack. Let's see. One thing I will say, because these are tutorials, I am a little interested in trying to go through these and sort of make mistakes and learn how the game works on its own. Although I definitely appreciate when I'm missing obvious steps. But I'll just take a minute. The biggest thing I want to do is at least give voice to my thought process when I play a game like this. Oh, that's fair, Apucci. I mean, I should maybe actually caution you guys. It's really cool that all of you are stopping by. This is actually going to be a very brief one. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for me. I just couldn't sleep. And I was supposed to do Crusader Kings 2 earlier on today, so I did want to do something at least for my European viewers that I could show them a new game. I do actually intend to stream this game a little bit more, but after I've done the tutorials and I don't do like obvious mistakes like Hildrad pointed out, where I could use a perforator to prevent myself from being damaged more than I already had. Oh, Game King's a top 20 player. Rather than have units that one-off attack like a Pixie or a Rhino that has stamina. Cool. Well, this is it. I mean, so one thing that I mean, backseating is going to happen a lot in any kinds of gaming. I don't necessarily like the term, because I think in the end it comes from a positive place, right? People want to see you learn and to do well. So I'm not particularly bothered by it, other than the fact that I find there's a benefit from, so there's give and take, right? If I don't listen to chat, then I'm not going to get any better at the game. But in the case of tutorials, I think there's sometimes value in giving voice and getting beaten by implementing a suboptimal strategy, just so I can say it's like, okay, I kind of get how this game works a little bit more. But on the other hand too, right? Like, there's always value in what other people have to play. I mean, especially people who play this game quite regularly. I know I got my key a while ago, but in terms of the tutorials, I haven't been that diligent because school's starting up again. Hey, Phantom Klepto. Apucci, Game King are both top 10 players. My God, guys. Thank you very much for stopping by and dealing with this spazzy stream. I know for a fact Phantom Klepto is not a Prismata player. He is one of the people who watches my normal stuff. So Phantom, this is I gave a little bit of an introduction at the beginning. This is a game made by some former MIT students, as far as I understand. It's a really interesting little strategy game. It's I think kind of the way they describe it, and I think this is a very fair way of looking at it, is that it's one. I will actually do the Steel Splitter. And I'll try and explain the value. I think Game King actually, if you use Twitch Turbo, you can see what Game King wrote, but I will repeat his advice. But yeah, so kind of the idea of this game is that you will distill down the elements of an RTS strategy game, and then you'll put it into something turn-based like this. It's a pretty fun one. I'm not especially good at it. I'm just working through the tutorials right now, and chat is slowly building up some Prismata players who are probably going to be pounding their heads on keyboards in frustration at my ineptitude. But as far as I'm concerned, Klepto, actually, it was one of the strategy games I was talking about earlier. There were 3 that I've been playing over the holidays that I want to stream, and Prismata is one of them. So I'm really interested in doing this properly once I get my head wrapped around the game. Okay, so the decision here is, what do I wind up doing with the red? Is the Steel Splitter, did that take up energy? Or is it yes, it's because I put them onto attack. Well, last time I was actually kind of content with getting by with just 4 damage for one engineer. I guess I gotta think about this a little bit. Oh, actually, sorry, I was saying, so the point that Game King made was the tutorial kind of recommends that you start off with Pixie because it's very low cost. Of course, the first few stages were spent building up some drones here, so the recommendation that he made was a Steel Splitter, and the advantage here is I just click on it and it gives me an attack. And of course, the other advantage here is that it's got 3 defense, so that thing that Hildrad had pointed out earlier, where I could use the perforator to absorb some damage. If I was in the same situation and I had a Steel Splitter, in that situation, I would have just been able to tank the entire amount of damage and I wouldn't have lost anything. So the question here is, do I push this over? So in this case, I can go to 5 and 6, which in this situation here, they lose everything in their defense. Yeah, actually, that's the better call, because then I can take it out. I guess there's no question about what I'm using that blood for. And this is probably overwhelmingly wasteful, but at least it'll keep me from worrying about engineers. So in this case, we gave up the pixie, but we were able to take out all the defenses. You've always felt that these types of games would be fun if you had the brain power to get into them. Well, Phantom Klepto, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like streaming games like these. I learned Crusader Kings 2 through giving... So basically, the tutorials for that game are not very good. Oh, thank you so much, Ewok Fuzzy Nuts. Guys, I'm part of a streaming team called Team Panda. Ewok Fuzzy Nuts is also a member. He's actually got a nice little stream himself. Doesn't tend to do strategy games like I do. But really nice guy, one of the first people I actually saw on Team Panda. And now here's the catch. I didn't keep a unit free to absorb damage, but that's fine because I just built 3 of those. But he is definitely another member of Team Panda. So one thing about the team is that they are like-minded as far as personality, if not the actual content of their games. And so it's a nice place to hang out on Twitch. So if I can get 1 more damage, I don't think there's any way to do damage immediately, though. So that was a blunder. If I had thought it through a little bit better and I could have gotten this to a point where I was doing 7 damage, then again, I would wipe them out. So what do we do instead? I'm going to have to worry about the Tarsier being built, so we'll start with a regular wall. That leaves me the 2 blood and the... I mean, they keep calling it red, but it's so obviously a blood drop. Hey, Paranoia! Thanks for stopping by. And Ewok, as I was explaining earlier, one feature of this game is that they actually tell you, if you go into the into the main menu of this game, it'll actually tell you when people are streaming Prismata. So I was originally trying to go incognito on this. I was originally trying to go incognito on this just so I could learn the game, but okay, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll try and explain. It's probably not the best reasoning in the world, but I'll sort of explain what I did there. But basically, it's a really nice feature, actually. I think it sort of... I know Clara did a lot of these speeches at Full Indie and that about streamability of games and how it helps out. I think it's a very good way to approach streaming. But in my case here, because I'm basically just streaming the game while I learn it. And again, I've said this a couple times, but Crusader Kings 2 being able to give voice for what I was doing helped me to learn the game. I'm definitely feeling a little more self-conscious than usual because I think there's a bunch of people waiting for a queue for a real game and watching me make very elementary errors. What is this game? Hey, Superior Blaze! This is actually one you'll probably be really interested in. So this is called Prismata. It's taken the RTS elements, so building up a base and sort of building your strength to be able to finally crack the enemy. I'll be really, really granular in terms of the next turn, just so I can sort of say how the game goes. I know it's going to wind up being a bit repetitive. But in this case here, it's sort of taking the RTS, distilling it down into a turn-based game. Again, it says up here it is an alpha. It will be free to play in the future. I don't know... I mean, I'm certainly not going to make a claim on behalf of the developers of the game, but in my case, I followed it on the Reddit for a while, and then I just asked for a key in their key thread, and I was given one. So I don't know what kind of numbers they're trying to keep in terms of population, but if you're interested, I'm sure at least voicing your interest couldn't hurt anything. It's going to be pretty granular because you have all these But, well, I mean, the original intention behind... Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to just spend the gold that I had, but eventually the original plan that I had along these lines was to build up my Electivores. Plus, I also have a very bad habit of kind of wanting to stock things up. And then I think they just wind up never used, but it's helpful when things get out of hand. New Prismata people love it when new people come stream themselves learning the game. You'll get more viewers than regular players. That's actually good to hear, because I mean, like, in the end, any game that I've played, I never can really make a claim to be the best at it. Like, in terms of Crusader Kings 2, probably the most popular thing that I play, I'm never going to be as good as Arumba or Quill 18, who everybody tends to reference when I'm playing it. But I think if there's one thing that I can make a claim for myself, is that once I understand a game, I feel that I can explain it relatively well. And that's something I get a lot of enjoyment out of. So if there's it feels like this game actually has a lot of resources available to new people already. But certainly if new people like watching people who can explain things, that gives me a reason to learn this game well enough that I can explain it to others. Oh, thank you, Arisumizuki. I didn't know about that demo, actually. That's a great resource. If you don't mind, guys, sorry I'm not actually taking this turn, but I'd love to put that aside just so I can... I'd love to put that aside just so I can direct people to it. All right. So the idea here was I built up the I made sure that I could at least do the 4 damage, because it makes them choose between the doomed wall or the wall. I don't know what the better option is strategically. But either way, only one of these are going to wind up dying. Because of, again, you heal at the end of the turn, so. I'm assuming it's the doomed wall that, oh, maybe not, okay. Alright, so I guess we do decision time. So I need to worry about 2 attack coming in, which is fine because I've already got a wall. Although I'm not sure where this attack is coming from. Is that just because at the end of the turn, well, that wouldn't make sense. This is one part I've actually had a little bit of trouble for in the game. Actually, sorry, Blitz, or Blaze, I said I was gonna be granular in terms of explaining how everything happened. So the first thing that you want to do is build up your resources. In the bottom left-hand corner, you've got gold and green, which are resources that will remain with you from turn to turn. And then on the right, you've got these sort of... I'm trying to think, 1-period resources, I'll call them. So in this case here, they're discarded at the end if you don't. So one of the problems here is I have all these engineers. I don't really have a way of spending this 5 every turn. So maybe this time around we'll see whether or not I can do something with that. I kind of like these Tarsiers, but I feel like I'm gonna have to be dealing with damage fairly soon. This also has stamina. This is always tricky. Just receives the unit companies. Sick exploit right there. Last time a streamer played the Devo, so stupid things happen. UI is old. Okay. Demo works fine if you want to play against base 5 against bots. Hey, Cold Cannon. Well, actually, it seems like a lot of Prismata people have just shown up, which is making me feel very embarrassed for myself. Because I am just going through the tutorials very, very slowly, trying to give voice to my ignorance of this game. Want to attack for 4. Alright. Yeah, that makes sense. So, question is, what do I do with my blue and red? Steel Splitter sort of seems like a good choice. Yeah, and then I just, use it up with the Tarsiers. What made me start playing? So I actually found out about the Kickstarter. I am currently in school, so I'm trying to keep on top of expenses. I didn't. So in this case, I'm a free rider. I'm sorry to say. I didn't actually back it, but I was very interested in it, especially because, you know, there's definitely a very good pitch in saying former MIT student. I will hit end turn in a second, but I did want to explain where I found out about this. There's definitely a very good pitch in saying, you know, former MIT students drop out and start playing, or start making a video game. I definitely like strategies, and you know, I heard their descriptions. I think one thing that really attracted me to it was to see them. I mean, one, the passion is very clear. But two, that they were very clear in terms of saying what their priorities were in terms of making the sort of game that they wanted, and what you know, what they thought was good. Now I'll admit I'm not a huge RTS guy, but I definitely do enjoy strategy games, and it is something that I stream fairly regularly. So I started going through the tutorials, and then specifically I'm streaming Prismata tonight because I was supposed to do Crusader Kings 2, and in this case, New Year's caught up with me. I went to take a nap and wound up like waking up at 11 o'clock at night. And now that I can't sleep, I thought I'd do a very small stream and just go through the tutorial, because ultimately I wound up learning Crusader Kings 2 through doing that. So in this case, I was, you know, my attention was the original pitch, the Kickstarter, and then the blog stuff. And then eventually I asked for a key on the Reddit, and I got in. All right, so we'll commit. In this case, the idea here is to build up the 4 attack, just again, so I either create the threat on either wall. It looks like they're willing to give up the smaller wall. And I need to decide where the damage is. So in this case, you know, as anticipated, the Tarsier comes out. I've already got a wall to absorb it. They can actually, if they introduce another thing that does 1 damage, I'm still going to be okay. Now they have built conduits, so what this is going to wind up eventually creating, I'll just end the defense here. So looking into the future, there's 2 things that conduits can be used for. If their back is against the wall, it's going to be used to build blockers. In this case, you transform drones into force fields, and it basically goes from, rather than putting up a drone for sacrificing a drone for 1 defense, you explicitly sacrifice it, turn it into a force field, and then you wind up absorbing 2 attack. Second thing, and most likely what they're going to wind up building it for, is to build up these Gauss cannons. So I wind up having to, you know, be miserable. And this is a way that you can just sort of start raising the temperature on your opponent a little bit. So again, the idea here is I've been building up these Tarsiers, and this is now going to be giving me a base floor of damage. So even if I don't click any of these guys, I know I'm going to be doing 2 damage. Now clearly I want to do more than that, and it costs me nothing to use these steel splitters, so again I've got at least 1 doomed wall that's going to be hurt. I mean, it's going to wind up dying anyway, so it's maybe not the best thing in the world. And then I don't really lose anything by using these electrovores, so I'll start off with that. And I guess the big question that I have now is, what do I want to do with my... I can obviously use my drones, so I build up those resources. I've got 13. And I can say, what's the best way that I can wind up using the blue, red, and whatever remaining energy I have this time around. All right, sorry, I haven't been following chat, so... Bot is quite dumb because base set G units are quite bad. Oh, you're talking... I take it you're meaning green units, so you're saying here that in general... I mean, I know about the utility of the force field. It's something that personally I wouldn't want. Probably not something I would want to be using myself. I mean, I'm really tempted to build this. Just because I can finally justify having all of these insane engineers, although I will wind up losing the wall next turn. I'm not even going to give voice to this. I want it, so I built it. And you know what? Doesn't make sense to build any more engineers here because gold is something I can save over turn. So in this case, I will wind up doing 7 damage. Probably just killing the wall that was going to die already and accomplishing nothing else. Goose cannon, best cannon, come on. Yeah, I mean, if I just sit down and look at these things, the Tarsier seems to have a lower overall cost to me. The original thing I was thinking of was building more Animuses because I have perforators sitting in the background that aren't doing much because of my my lack of red. But if I'm just comparing the two, the advantage of the Gauss cannon seems to be its that it comes up right away, which isn't, I'm not entirely convinced that that's worth the extra 2 gold. And then I suppose it's a little more helpful if you're worried about being overrun, but I don't really have that fear at the moment. And so in my case, I'm sort of willing to spend that time to build up the Tarsiers. Force field kind of makes sense in its own way, just because I'm new and I find my base being overrun a whole lot. So I guess I suppose that is the resource that's supposed to be more defensive. Anyways, I was going to wind up building an Animus, but the Cauterizer looked at me and I really had to build it. So have a great night, Cold Cannon. Sorry, this probably was not what you were looking for. But I really appreciate you stopping by. And indeed, all of you, actually. I've got 14 people in here, which is kind of what I get when I just have a normal, regular stream. So it's definitely great to see so many people here. I can definitely see why you guys love this game and want to watch it on streams. So I am going through the tutorials very slowly. But hopefully this will give you a little bit of a fix while you're waiting for your queues or whatever you're up to tonight. And hey, Alex Weiss. Gauss Cannon defines a strategy that is sometimes available. Get all high health units and don't defend at all. Okay, that makes sense. So all these engineers are very easy to get chomped up. Now I'm a little confused as to what I'm going to do about these walls. So I'll see I've got 8 damage to begin with. So I at least wind up killing one wall. Actually, yeah, 2 walls. Got a lot more damage than I thought I do. So I can use up my red to turn this into 13. Yeah, that's obviously the best way to go, because that winds up killing the doomed walls. And I think I will take that opportunity to build some animi. And a drone, because I can never have enough resources. All right, and again, 1 damage here, so that's what I built the wall for. Okay, so similar idea here. I've got far more engineers than I really need, so in this case it makes sense to just bring up the Electrovore. Basically, these I'm automatically going to click, and the big decision is if I want to use the red and blue towards constructing something or towards attack. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to use up all 6 red on my own this turn. In fact, just because I love this Cauterizer so much and because I've got a fetish for engineers, it seems like maybe I just build another one of these. In terms of what I need to fear from this guy, a lot of these resources just keep going into these doomed walls. So again, we do the 13 damage, which... So, okay, so 2 for the force field, which takes me down to 11... Yeah, I think that's the way that we'll go. And unfortunately, I don't... Oop. I wind up not using one red. I was a little tempted to build a drone just because I was one away from building something that I wanted, but I'm okay with this. The fire spinner build? So I'll maybe ask for the people in chat, maybe some of my regulars who haven't played this game. Do you have any questions about the game right now? Because I think at this point I'm sort of stumbling around. I'm trying to give voice to some things here, but I sort of know how I'll wind up completing this match. What does he have right now? So he's got a total of 17 defense. I mean, there's a side of me that says maybe I can just build a whole bunch of pixies and be a bastard next turn, but I don't think that's quite the way to... I don't think that is the way to do these things. So I can take that up to 16. Well, we might as well start with that. You know what? This is just fun to do. So another cauterizer, and I might as well do a perforator just because I can use up that red. So you can sort of see, maybe rather, in this case, obviously I didn't, this is just more like click something on the screen. You can clearly see what I did just by clicking it on there, but the pattern that sort of emerged this time around is that I've been able to build up, I mean, the scenario has more or less equipped me to do so, but I'm at a point now where he's on the back foot. He has to dedicate a lot of resources to building up these defenses, otherwise he just gets crushed like a tin can. And so the big question for me, I mean, number one, as long as I can keep him from building offensive units, then we just continue out this way. And so the question that I have in terms of my building decisions are, well, what are some ways that I can increase my, what are some ways that I can increase the amount of damage that I'm doing each turn? I haven't necessarily, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even mouse over and look at all of the individual units here, which is probably something I should be doing, especially at the beginning of a match. So it may not necessarily be the most efficient use of my resources to keep building these cauterizers. One thing that would be particularly bad is if I actually have any situation where he builds up some damage and is allowed to munch up my engineers. But again, we're not in that situation. We've just been building this cycle of trying to obliterate as many defenses as I can and keep them from being able to build any offensive units, so I can just keep sitting on my wall. And then eventually what'll happen is, as long as we don't break this cycle, and from what I understand, the AI guy is supposed to be really good on this team, so I can't necessarily take that for granted. But the idea is we just kind of rinse and repeat until he runs out of resources and I'm able to do some lasting damage. So in my case here, maybe the better thing that I could do would be to take a minute and sort of see how I can maximize the number of swords that I'm going to be producing next turn. But in this situation here, I'm just kind of trying to use up the resources that I can in terms of attack. Again, because that keeps them on the back foot, and then using whatever's left over to build up my capacity to build more things to hurt them. So in this case, building so many force fields necessarily means that they have to give up their resources. So in this case here, I mean, they've got gold. The bottlenecks in terms of production are going to be coming from the fact that there's, X number of conduits, blast forwards, animuses, or whatever. They're only able to build 2 force fields at a time because of the conduits. But the idea here is we start starving them for gold, and eventually they're not going to be able to build any of those units that defend them. And again, I'm just sitting, they've only got the 1 damage, so I sit on my wall and I ignore the problem. Masterbot is really solid, but they don't use it for the tutorials. Thank God. And yeah, rip robot. So remember we were talking a little bit about how they're taking the experience of a real-time strategy game and turning that into this turn-based game here. Again, you you can sort of see, right? If you, especially, so I mean, one of the drawbacks, I suppose, for somebody like me, especially when I'm not that experienced with, let's say, StarCraft, I actually was able to use all my resources this turn, and this will be good because I actually usually wound up needing the 1 gold to do interesting things. Although, of course, I'm going to be swimming in resources because I've got another cauterizer on its way. But you know, one of the disadvantages to me as somebody who's not very experienced in, let's say, StarCraft, is that I am still fumbling around figuring out how to get where I need to go. You know, this is my appeal for playing support in Dota 2, is that, you know, in the moment you're going to need the reflexes. But I find a big advantage in Dota 2 is just simply being able to read a situation and anticipate what's coming up. And so in this case here, I'm no longer inhibited by the fact that I'm kind of, well, I mean, I still need to learn what the hell's going on, but in the case of the, of StarCraft, you know, I have a physical impediment by the fact that I just cannot click very efficiently and do what I need to do. So in this case, the Prismata has sort of taken that away, but you can sort of see what happened in here, right? Is once I was able to start using the resources that I'd built up to push in and again destroy either the frontline defenses, which again forces them to rebuild those, and then what'll be happening next turn, I'm assuming next turn anyway, I haven't actually read the situation entirely, but basically what'll be happening shortly is this is going to become overwhelming. You just simply can't sustain something along these lines. And so I'm going to just continue to get stronger. Their resources get consumed to deal with the situation that they find themselves in, and eventually the base breaks, very much like what you'll see in a StarCraft match. So there's a 6-second turn version for your APM needs. I'll have to actually use the hotkeys in that case, I feel like. Right, so we've committed. As we sort of said, the defenses get completely punished, and they're left in their situation. So I don't know if there's anything else to be said. Again, if anybody on my my usual cast is curious about what the devil is going on, I'll try and do my best to explain. So big question here is, what is the better use of my my resources? I'll definitely build 1 steel splitter. And I would have avoided building Tarsiers just because it's going to take a couple of turns and I suspect that the game is over, but I'm not entirely sure the Rhino is necessarily all that better. I don't know, whenever I see things like its stamina 2 is only clickable twice, sometimes I'm a little, I think it's because I'm new, it's a little less desirable to me just because I know that once I build it, I'm not going to be able to rely on that for sustaining an attack. And I mean, this seems to be designed as a defensive unit anyway. It says blocker over the top. That's usually the best hint. But I definitely like, I mean, in terms of things that appeal to me in terms of games, definitely ones that are long-term benefits that grow over time, ideally. This one doesn't necessarily grow over time. But in this case, you know, you put the money in, you let it grow, and it pays you off. Those are the sorts of things that appeal to me in games like this. So, again, there's probably a little bit of my my own biases that I need to overcome in terms of a game like this, but it worked for this scenario, so. I think it's time to lurk and maybe go to sleep. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Klepto. I hope you feel better. Better in the morning, or if it's afternoon for you, that you feel better in the evening, maybe. You will love the unit Gauss Fab. I love it, and you also buy a bunch, even when it's bad, and then you lose. Well, Hildrad, the good news is that I have plenty of plenty of experience making dumb decisions and then dying. So at least we can be brothers in arms on this point. And hey, God Empress Celestia, you figured something out about Rhino. However, it's prompt defense when you can keep it alive, it's good. Yeah, and I think seems like a tutorial. This particular tutorial seems to have been built not to really create that much of a threat from the AI. So I have a suspicion that I'll find better uses for the Rhino in the future. In fact, Hildrad had pointed out, with the Perforator, of course, that was a defensive opportunity for us. So in that situation, it sort of stood in the Rhino's stead. It's also instant damage for pressure in high inflation games.
I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me.
Mudkip guy, what a name, what a player. Thank you so much for that follow. All right, so in terms of reasoning, there is actually something, other than commentating and saying, I just clicked this button, which you're perfectly capable of reading yourself, now that I actually have a connection that will demonstrate this game and a resolution where you can read things on, there's actually a decision that I need to make here. In previous games, especially because I have lost to the tutorial AI before, I would actually usually be going towards some attacking units just so I am not dedicating so many resources to defending myself. There's no point in attacking the Tarsier here, though. Oh, thank you so much, God Empress Celeste. Sorry, it looks like you got cut off there. Oh my God, guys, thank you so much. Let's talk inflation, make it part of the tutorial. Well, I mean, I am an econ major, so inflation is one idea that I can handle and can see how it applies to this game. Crap day on top of a cold. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Klepto. You're probably gone by now, but looking forward to seeing you again when you're feeling a little bit better. Send you nudes? That sounds like a friends with detriment sort of proposition in my case. I think nudes will be a disincentive for people to follow. Just press Q and space a lot. What is the hotkey for Q? Anyways, so normally I would have just done the Tarsier because my experience with a lot of the tutorials have been that I get into a little bit of trouble. But the big situation here is to say, it's like, well, how do I keep the AI from defending itself? Well, first of all, the blast force. Oop. Thank you so much, CPO Williams. I don't have the damage to do that. So in this case, it would have been great if I could have taken out the 2 blast forges. I didn't, so in this case I did a conduit. That's to keep the drones from being able to turn into force fields. Oh, actually, that doesn't take them out. So I'll just take away his ability to make more force fields. So in this case, I went for the blast forges first just because the walls generate a lot of defense. And then I thought, for whatever reason, I thought conduits only had 1 health, which is clearly foolish. So in this situation, I just decided to go for the drones. Q on breach step clicks randomly, and Q on the defense phase clicks in some determined order that is useful, and space presses the button on the right. Nice. And 99% you kill Tarsier and drones. Makes sense. Maybe Q on breach isn't random. Alright. Why is it asking me to commit? Oh, just the previous move. Alright, I think we're winning, guys. CPO Williams, I know you hosted me, but are you around? Alright, for posterity, let's at least do the damage phase. Or sorry, we'll at least do our building. Gotta love my engineers. You never know when they're gonna launch a sneak attack. Proceed to damage. So we can do 22 damage. In this case, again, as was said in chat, the drone is a really great little bit of easy pickings, but clearly I don't care because I've won. In this case, I wasn't able to directly attack the engineers, but because it was just an overwhelming amount of damage, then I could destroy things under construction. But in this case here, sort of the plan that I had was I didn't have a lot to fear from him in terms of a comeback, so I did want to take out the blast forge just because that was allowing him to build out walls. Of course, if you destroy drones, you know, that is also going to inhibit their gold. But if you take a look at the cost of a... Well, sorry, so the cost of the wall would be 5, taking away the 3 gold. I guess it sort of depends. I guess probably what I would want to do in a situation to decide between a blast forge and drones would be... I would need to consider... I'd actually need to sort of... I would probably need to just sit down, take a look at what they can build, you know, turn by turn, and see how that goes. Anyways, clearly you should attack a second this position. Cube reach isn't random. Low skilling conduits. I don't know what mgga.me is. Shift click piles to click them faster. Okay, great. Barely, brain's not working. Great to see you, CPO Williams. For those of you, again, a lot of people here are just because are here because of Prismata. I will be able to... Oh, hang on. We haven't won. There's that sneak attack I was talking about. Aren't you all glad that I built those engineers? All right. Better build a wall just in case. So yeah, I'll finally be able to explain to the regulars of the channel here. But for those of you, perhaps the new people because of Prismata, this may not matter for, but CPO Williams will start streaming as soon as his computer comes in from his Christmas gift. But he is also a great friend of the streams, is somebody who bought us Horse Lords for Crusader Kings 2. And I actually picked up the cosmetic DLC in the Steam sale for that. So when we begin a new playthrough, we're actually going to have the Horse Lords expansion added into it, and I believe I still owe CPO Williams a play as the Mongols. So, but a fantastic guy I've actually played Crusader Kings 2 with off cast. So, someone show this guy the Wubba Rush. 3 drones are worth 12 gold. Blast Forge is worth 5. Ah, okay. So in this case, the way you would score it would be how much gold they're worth. So in that case, it is the you would want to take out the drones. I didn't actually think about considering it in terms of gold, but that makes sense because of the idea of reconstruction. Killing Blast Forges is really rarely right, probably in some grenade match games. Okay, that makes sense. Paranoia. BM Animus versus the bot. Have you played Undertale? I have not played Undertale. I actually don't even own it. But it seems to be the done thing. So, all right. So, for those of you wondering why there are so many people who know this game watching this awful stream, what is a true statement? This true wrecked. So, one of the things I think this is a great feature of games. I hope. I mean, I can't see why more developers won't do this in future, especially on a game like this, which has obviously such a very active community and people who are very passionate about it, not just the developers. But when you start streaming, I didn't opt into this. This is just because I've tagged myself as playing Prismata on Twitch, and this is the reason why a bunch of people are watching this stream, watching me learn. So let us do. I'll probably just do one more tutorial. What have we got for time? 3:32. Yeah, I definitely need to. I'm getting up at a fixed hour tomorrow, no matter what. So we'll do one more tutorial and sort of see how it goes. Let's see if I'm a little bit better at giving voice to my reasoning. And again, as I was told a little bit earlier, that apparently I'm not going to have it set up like this for a real game because the board is going to get too unwieldy. But because I am not in that situation yet, I'm going to keep both open. Ken issue 92. He heard that if he follows, you get nudes of me. I'm sure there are other places you can get nudes of other people. Fewer player this week because you've been stealing them. But more players would be nice. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, for my case, it was basically a lark that I asked for the key on Reddit, just because it seemed like it would be a fun game to try out. I think, based on my experience in terms of looking out for the game, I didn't know how to get in. Oh my god, why didn't I even need to look elsewhere for the time? It's up in the right-hand corner. That's also a very nice feature of the developers to remind you of how much of your life you're wasting playing video games. But from my experience, I was actually waiting for the game to get a full release. So I don't think most people know that there are ways to sort of get in on the alpha. Like, I had signed up for the alpha when I first found out about the game, and I never actually got an email back saying to play. And then when I went to the the Reddit site after I read up about the game a little bit, they gave me a key. So chalk nudes cause never-ending night terrors. I mean, seriously, Clara, who owns the she's the partnered streamer who owns the stream team that I'm on, has probably taken like 2 photos of me, and I look like a serial killer in both of them. So. All right, so this is, in this case here, you've got a stack of drones, 2 engineers. I haven't been able to quite figure out for myself why I would want to do anything but build 2 drones at the beginning in a situation like this. I don't have any of these other resources. Oh, actually, so let's read the mission objectives. Plan ahead so you have the right amount of blue and red resources to buy what you want. Take note of Flame Animus's ability to make single red and Drake's ability to consume blast forges you no longer need. Watch out for Hannibal's frontline feature. Okay, actually, let's read the cards that we want to do in each time. How did this become a meme? Is this about asking people for nudes? Serial killers are hot. Yeah. This is me. This is the thing that solicited demands of everybody. Okay, so So these are the items that you start off with in the game. Oh. At the start of the turn, gain 1 energy. So that's why I was able to build the drones here. Gain 1 gold for building a drone. Conduit, this is the thing that didn't really help the AI last time around. It's fragile, so in this case, unlike the other tech that they have, this thing, if you damage it, it will remain permanently damaged. So basically, this thing can take 3 hits in the game, and then it's dead. Blast Forge, so in this case it has 3 health. In this case that means that if I don't successfully do 3 damage to it, then it's just going to come back at full health. Animus, similar idea here. This will give me 1 blue, Animus will give 2 red. Force Field I would have no reason to do at the beginning of the game, but basically it's a fast way of me turning a drone into a blocker. And in this situation it has the 2 damage, which is fragile, but for that I would need the conduit. Gauss Cannon, in this case here, when I was comparing it between the Tarsier, it costs more gold, I need to build a conduit for it. The advantage that it has, of course, is it's quite healthy compared to the Tarsier, but I don't see a lot of reason for me to build this. Like right now I don't really want to build a conduit in my current situation, so I'm going to set it aside, although it would clearly have its own uses. Wall 3 health, it blocks right away, so very good reason for me to build a Blast Forge. Steel Splitter, so in this case 6 gold, basically 1 more than the wall, and in this case I can click it to gain damage. I can also in a pinch use it to defend because it has that same 3 health. So in this case a little bit more versatile. The idea here is that you're paying the extra gold for versatility. Tarsier is something that takes a little bit of time to build, but it'll just keep raising that floor of damage. It just stays in the back, and you're permanently going to keep adding to that. The Rhino, again, I was a little less thrilled about. You're paying for the diversity in this case. It's prompt, so you can throw it up to block if you need something in an emergency. You can get some damage right away, as somebody had pointed out, but the drawback is that it only has 2 stamina, and again, my tendency is to try and build things for the long run. Let me just take a minute here and catch up, because I see chat's a lot more active than I'm accustomed to. So usually on turn 1, you get either 2 drones or some alternative economic units if one shows up in the random set. Yeah, that would make sense. It's an underhanded way of making a player win more often without feeling it is cheated in their favor. Wait a minute, so I've got more drones than the enemy, or is it... I haven't actually played a normal game, so what is the normal setup like? What if the Bloodfang shows up and they go turn 1 Animus without thinking? Think of the bot's feelings. Oh, buy an Animus turn 1 in the tutorial. So I'm assuming the buy Animus in turn 1 is based entirely on the fact that you're playing a bot as opposed to another player. According to Electo and Red Ray, most of these tutorials can be beaten without buying drones. Interesting. Some of the dialogue here I can't quite follow just because I'm not familiar enough with the with some of the terms, but that's fine. Ruining the new player experience? What are you talking about? I'm really enjoying this. Although again, I'll be. I don't really think I need to be upfront over over when I don't know things. But yeah, I'll definitely say half of this stuff is Greek. New player experience is being harassed for nudes. Is that? I was gonna say that's probably a bit more of a. Seems a bit more of a new Twitch experience. Okay, so this is kind of neat here, which is so a ride core. Alright, core. You click it. In this case, you give up some of your attack power in exchange, and you get gold in exchange. The Flame Animus takes 2 turns to construct. At the start of your turn, you gain 1 red and 1 attack. Again, this is a kind of a unit that I'm fond of. In this case here, it costs a little bit less than the Animus, but it doesn't gain the same red. The Drake, start of your turn, gain 2. And then also gain 2 by consuming Blast Forges. Again, in my case, because it's sort of been... It's kind of the way I play Civilization as well, which is to take forever to build everything up and never ever give up resources. I'm not sure I would ever actually use that ability, but again, might end the game a little bit quicker than the previous time. Perforator we're familiar with last time, so in this case, as long as I have the red to support it, is somebody I can add to the attack. Also sort of serves as a blocking unit, a little bit like the Steel Splitter, but less expensive. And then the one it's warning me about, Hannibal. Frontline can be attacked directly, and at the start of the turn gain an attack, and then click to gain an attack. So the idea here is that where I was deciding where the damage was allocated, I believe what this frontline ability is saying is that if the enemy wants to dedicate 7 attackers to destroy this thing, I don't get any say in the matter. Twitch is part of the Prismata experience. All right. So in some drone games, I've actually wound up by building more drones in a situation like this. So when I think about what went right in the previous game and some things that I would want to try out, I like the idea of building up whatever damage I can. I'm thinking probably the way to go would be to build a Blast Forge, so I can move into a Flame Animus, which is actually going to just start me off on the attack right away, and then of course I can translate that red into the Tarsiers. So let's try that. So in this case, it fits in nicely too because it gives me, it's just enough to give me a drone. I obviously sacrifice the energy, but because I build too many engineers, that is not something I exactly lose a lot of sleep over. Good for a new player. Oh, thank you, Alex Weiss. Spent longer time than Silver on turn 1. Yeah. Needs a cam. I mean, this is one drawback. I'm not a big cam streamer. I used to stream on a Mac laptop, so that did have a built-in webcam, but I didn't have a green screen for it. So the Mac version of OBS doesn't have a feature to do chroma key. So effectively, that's wasted. In terms of future plans for cam stream, that will involve me buying an extra peripheral now that I'm streaming on the PC. But the biggest thing is that if people have ever commented on the stream, it's usually been my voice, and I don't feel there's a lot of added value from my facial expressions. If anything, it's actually a drawback. Although again, certainly when it's the guy who's requesting nudes who wants the streamer to have a camera, it's always a question about how serious the suggestion is. All right. So we'll see if this pays off. Yeah, it's not. I was gonna say, I'm sure of all places, I probably don't need to go to Twitch for validation on my appearances, but it's a format that I've gotten used to. I try whenever I stream stuff to keep as few distractions from the game as possible. I don't really like going to a lot of streams with a bunch of just layout stuff. Kind of begging everybody for their attention or their money or what have you. So in this case, I couldn't quite justify the face cam, although I love the fact that in the settings, actually this is, because we do have a couple of streamers in the chat right now, this is absolutely fantastic. They have made it so that if you put your face cam somewhere, this gets around some of the problems that I actually have, which is that the face cam inevitably gets in the way of the action. So what they've done here is they've actually given you the option of saying where your cam is, so you basically nothing in the game goes over it. I think that's a really great idea on their part. Actually, I was meaning to mention that to Clara, because I suspect she probably hasn't thought about that. No one would watch your stream if you didn't have a camera. But yeah, so and in terms of the the exception that I make to that is obviously follows, donations, things like that are ways that people contribute to the stream, and that, you know, it's nice to be recognized for that. So I'm not a purist on something like that by any means, but I don't know, I like to keep it simple. It also involves less work on my part, which is another very important feature of the streamer, is that he is lazy. So you've never watched a Prismata stream for the game? Just here for pony gifts. I'm sure somebody in chat can help you out. In case you haven't noticed, guys, I don't have any kinds of links locked up. Obviously, if the types of links that get shared, well, I mean, ones that are not, you know, on side for Twitch terms of service, clearly that's, you're taking your life in your own hands that way. But generally, I like to assume that people know what they're doing and are not crazy. So by all means, you don't need to ask permissions for links or anything like that. I just request that you exercise the good common sense that you use in over the course of your Prismata games. Okay, so as you might anticipate, when somebody's building up a flame animus, they're not just going to want to sit there and take the damage. So in this case, because this thing takes some time to build up, it gives somebody time to build a blast forge and then set up a wall. So that's their best reply to what I'm doing on there. Whether or not I build another flame animus is another question, because in the end, the purpose of building up these resources is to go for to basically be able to build up my tarsiers. So I'm going to take advantage of that right away. Again, it's ramping up, and the big question is what I wind up doing with my blue. I can go for another flame animus, which again, after 2 turns is going to be not really addressing the wall, but at least it'll be contributing to that. Of course, the same will be said for the tarsier. And so, I mean, I can go for steel splitter, which will give me some defense. What have they got right now? I don't think there's a big heavy damage dealer that I need to worry about right away. So I mean, building a steel splitter would be a nice sort of It'd be a nice way of anticipating an attack. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. I think I'm just going to go for another Flame Animus because like, in the worst case scenario, I just build up a wall once they build an attacking unit. So, in this case, it just gets them on the board, and I can focus on using the blue for other things later on. Okay, so Conduit's been built, which, again, it's not a decision I can quite justify for myself. I don't have an immediate threat to worry about. So would the fear be... Sorry, I gotta count. Is there a way of seeing... I'm assuming there isn't a way that I can see how much they make right away, so 1, 2, can do 14 gold. Well, no, I don't need to worry about like a big sudden surprise attack, because they don't have the animuses to do that. So yeah, I'll just clear these out. I mean, again, I'm not entirely sure. So the fact that this takes 2 turns to kind of get you on your feet with your red, I'm not entirely sure where this fits overall. And then I guess the question is, do I build one of my beloved engineers or not? I mean, again, basically the biggest thing is that because I don't really have any major threats coming up, I sort of feel okay. In an emergency, I can throw up a wall. If I have some time to think about it, then I can put up a steel splitter. But in this case, I've sort of assured myself my floor for my attacks. And then now that I've exhausted my flame animi, I can start thinking a little bit more about where I turn my attention to building up my attacks. Past the turn, floating 3 gold. Did you have any reason for not building a drone? I didn't think I had 3 gold, actually. I would have built the drone in that situation. That's actually what I'm trying to decide right now with the 2, whether I want to build my beloved engineers. I'm not going to. But yeah, that was just a straight mistake in that situation. Yeah, no, I had no reason for that, Jampy Dampy. I thought I didn't think I had enough gold for a drone because I would have wanted to actually. I got the link, WTFosaurus. Actually, give me a second here to shout him out. I didn't actually set up with it yet. I took a nap and then got up really, really late, so I decided I was going to do a couple of tutorials in this game, Prismata. Guys, I do want to take a second here. I got to see WTFosaurus at EXP Bar last night for New Year's. He is a fantastic streamer, somebody who is partnered on Twitch. He does a 24-hour Star Citizen stream, so strongly recommend it. One of these people, I actually know a shocking number of people who are actually able to make a living doing Twitch, and both being able to hang out with him in person, I know he is as fun to hang out with as he is to watch on stream. But definitely, in my opinion, when you watch this guy's stream, you can see why he makes a living doing this. He's a fantastic entertainer. Obviously, it is not a game... I've got a bunch of people watching Prismata right now, WTFosaurus, because I actually have people who are streaming this game built into the client. So I have no idea whether or not there are any Star Citizen fans inside here, but yeah, if you guys have any interest in Star Citizen, one thing that I think is great about Saurus's stream is that I was sort of on the fence on it for a while, and he eventually kind of convinced me over, but he's really good at getting people set up with it. So for me, that's obviously close to my heart. I like people who are willing to do to take the time and explain things, and people who are passionate about their games and want to get people into it. So if you like that sort of thing, I would strongly recommend checking him out. And again, he's just a cool guy in general. So I kind of like the idea here of the Aride core, just because I mean, eventually I'm going to be hitting this point where I am actually going to be using my attack. And I really blundered with that, building that drone, because I haven't had the money to build it otherwise. Anyways, I'm going to have some attack coming online soon. Alright, so he gave up his engineers to defend that. First thing I need to do is build that wall I was talking about. So now they've got, or they'll have attack coming online. So in this case I can build the steel splitter. Alright, so I've got 7 attack. 2 of them will be absorbed by the force field. Well, let's see. Okay, so this is actually this is one of the things that I find really interesting about this game. So the situation that I find myself in is they've got 8 defense, I've got 7 attack. So here are their options. They sack one of the walls, so that'll reduce me down to 4. Force field takes 2, and then the wall just sucks up the rest. Let's turn that around. Say we've got 7 attack here, so goes down to 5, still lose a wall. So actually in this case they wind up losing the same no matter what. So we'll see, is there any way I can make this slightly better for myself? So if I give up one of my attack, that gives me 6. I can afford to do that, I believe. And in this case I'll sit on the gold because I don't think I have any real reason to build my obscene number of engineers. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, hang on. So where did this attack come from? Oh, okay, sorry. So I thought the bracket meant that was coming up in the next turn. So I do actually have to give up an engineer. That's a shame. But probably better I learn that now rather than a live game. So I'll build up another one. I'll know for next time. I've got more blood than I know what to do with, so maybe perforators are a better use of my money. So there's 2 damage coming in. I think I'll just build the perforators actually. In this case I won't commit the steel splitter. And then, so we've got 3, 6, 9. And they're leaving a drone open. So they're going to defend with one of those. That takes it down to 9. I'm assuming they want to give up the 3 walls. I don't see quite... Let me just work through the logic of this. So... Yeah, sorry, I keep interchanging between blood and red. I know I don't call blue steel, but I call red blood. So yeah, I got to think about this. So he's got 12 defense. 369. Yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I probably could have got some money out of that, but... Okay, so the one problem that I run into here is that now my perforators are taking up all of my red without any fallback, so I think I'll take a minute to build up my position. Again, they're still just sitting on the 2 damage, and they're still, I mean, they're already, so it paid off, probably. I think this is a little bit, I think Kierkegaard once told a story. I think he was using this as an example of, there was some theological argument people had made which says, if you, like if you're playing, or like if, you know, you consider the story of the Garden of Eden, right? And humanity, you know, humanity's in its current state, you know, good and evil exist in the world, we have knowledge. And so in the end, you know, maybe it would have been better in, you know, maybe the world is a little bit better off now that we have full knowledge of things and there's the opportunity for redemption or something like that. And I think he wrote in his journal once that it was a little bit like having a sailor going up to the crow's nest drunkenly, like just goofing off, falling to what seemed to be his certain death, and is able to land on his feet and is completely unharmed. Like nobody would... The fact that things kind of turned out okay in the end is not the reason why you want to keep doing that. But in this case, so it's the story here that I may have just blundered into a situation. But again, they more or less seem to be on the back foot. So I seem to be able to afford to be able to put something into the Animus. Oh, Superior Blaze, thank you so much for the host again. I think I introduced Blaze a little bit before. Actually, we did a co-cast earlier where we played Endless Space together. Okay, I gotta start seeing what images are being posted here. I hope this doesn't change my browser window. Or it just doesn't load it at all. Fantastic. Theological arguments to beat the bot? Yeah. But yeah, anyways, either way, I think I just blundered into into something that wound up working on this one here. So, now that we're done talking about Kierkegaard, it sort of seems wasteful not to use the blue, but unfortunately that doesn't give me much else to work with. Maybe I could just man up and actually finally build that wall. Yeah, that frees up drone. So now I don't need to worry about keeping the steel splitter side. Oh, you know what? I didn't even bother thinking about if there was a way to use the core, but that's fine because we're gonna win. All right, so we're kind of in the same boat that we were before, where we're just punching things. So we'll build up Tarsiers. I think I'll build another Animus just so I can get into that cycle of building perforators again. And I'm always short on cash. I think I'll just leave it at that. Exploit missed. Hey, new brains. Okay, so I have 2 damage. There's not really a reason to go after the Tarsier, and as I learned last time, it's not even necessarily a good idea to go for any of these. I think probably if I didn't have the benefit of the feedback from chat, I might have even been tempted to go for something like the Flame Animus because it does deny them the attack. But again, I've got the wall set up, so in this case, I take out the drones. If only the streamer clicked. I tried. Didn't seem to open, but suffice to say, if I find the awful things that you've posted on there, I'll just ban you after the fact. All right, out of Tarsiers. So big question is, what do I do with the rest of the red? Probably build up an Animus because the Perforator is going to be my source of damage in the future. Build another Steel Splitter. Drones are dead. Take out the Blast Forges so they can't build any more defenses. And yeah, Conduits. Not that it matters. And for posterity, so I can show how utterly inefficiently I use my resources. Clearly we want to use the core. And there we go. So, I mean, again, I don't... There has to be other... a little bit more variety in live games or something like that. But again, once we can get into that nice little cycle of forcing them to commit everything to build up the defenses, then we're more or less where we need to be. So probably the lesson out of that one for me to consider is this idea of building the flame animi at the beginning, because it's obvious. I mean, with what you can build, what you can do at the beginning, it's not really a credible threat. I think the reason why you would do something like that would be to, the initial appeal of putting those out was just so I could kind of get them on the board when I could, and then I kind of don't need to think about them anymore. I can use the blue or the steel or I guess rock is the term that chat was saying. I can just use that for other things like building up the steel splitters or the walls when I need them. Obviously, I blundered on that one. I thought that the damage would be coming in later. So I was building a steel splitter and lost an engineer when I really didn't need to. And I mean, again, it seems to me like the disadvantage of just having the one red isn't necessarily that bad when you're just building up everything. So in this case, I'm spending a little bit less gold. But the fact that it takes 2 turns to come up is a problem. So I need to think about that a little bit more. But yeah, other than that, that was one where we could get into that that vicious, well, virtuous for us, cycle where they had more than they could deal with. So, anyways, let me catch up with chat. Flame Animus and Tarsier are what you would breach if you weren't winning by a landslide. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, right. So in this case, it would be so in that case, the reasoning for not attacking those was just I had a wall to deal with it. But I'm assuming the major advantage is. So actually, here's my question to you: is this just simply because the gold winds up working a little bit better? Or in this case, is it just because obviously you want to decrease that attack power? Because normally, like whenever I've been having the games where, I have a credible threat of losing, I've normally just tried to blunt the attack as best as I can, because it frees up my resources. It sort of seems like, when I want to not have that happen to me, one of the ways I can do that in a breach would be not having to dedicate those resources to building up walls and stuff like that. Or is it just I never actually bothered to see how much those items would cost? If it just winds up working better than killing the drones. Anyways, we'll return to the lobby. This new guy is too good for the tutorial, doing sensible stuff from the start. Went ahead, win. Alright. Someone here needs to stream snipe him. I'm sure the bots are very good at stream sniping. Chat has misled me. We all call the resources just by their colors. Alright. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still probably gonna wind up calling that blood. Okay, let me see if I can open... Oh god. Yeah, I am sorry, I'm definitely not opening random images. I've already been banned by stream for reading a history, or I guess that was the whiskey essay that I got banned for. I was actually just banned on Twitch for reading to the stream. So you'll forgive me if I'm a little gun shy of just opening up random news. But you can see I tried opening one of your earlier ones there. I absolutely will commit to you, God Empress Celestia, that I will check those out when I'm not streaming. May have won, but the vial will infect you all. Green, Gaussite, blue, Bohemian, red, Replicase. Is that actually the names of the... is that the lore for the game? Oh, please use the correct name. Sorry, I should have read the second half. Your sleeping schedule is so messed up you can't even go to bed at 7 a.m. Yeah, Klepto, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. It's just 4 o'clock right now, but I'm actually going to be packing it up, so... No one has ever seriously called red Replicase. Elliot did once, probably. It's Hearthstone on steroids. You know, New Brains, the connection is often made to card games. I don't personally quite see this as a card game. If you want Hearthstone on steroids, I would actually recommend Infinity Wars, which, if it wasn't 4 o'clock, I would actually load up and show you. But in this case, by the way, I still recommend Infinity Wars. I haven't played it in a while, but I definitely liked it a little bit more than Hearthstone personally. Not that there's anything wrong with Hearthstone, but it's not quite my thing. But I don't know. I would say it's like I said a little bit earlier on. Like it kind of seems to have taken an RTS experience and has distilled it down to a turn-based game. You know, there's no random draws. The only random element would be what the units on... You notice there were some units on the right-hand side. I kind of took a look at those, and those are going to change from game to game, and that's going to have a different shape in terms... That's going to basically cause a different shape in terms of how the game turns out. So in this case here, it's a little bit more about your ability to manage resources a little bit better than your opponent. Alright, you can get banned for reading Willapucci. I also had a troll that day, so my suspicion about what happened was that I may not have actually been banned specifically for the reading, so much as the fact that a troll put in the ban, whatever algorithm they use, sort of detected me as in breach of the terms of service.
I would never want to belong
And
someone like me.
and yeah, but yeah, if you guys want to check out the highlights or that, unfortunately it's not the entire book because I didn't upload in time one of the videos, but we did Ernst Gombrich's A Little History of the World. So if you like listening to children's history books being read, that is something for you. It's not Prismata though, so. But yeah, anyways, it's I need to talk to Twitch about it and see what's going on with that. But if nothing else, I'll just move the reading streams to YouTube. But in any case, it's my justification for not opening random images. But I will read. I cherish and will read every single or check out every single image that you have. God Empress. All right. Oh, thanks. Is it Polage? I've earned a follow for sure. Thanks a lot, guys. By the way, I will say I am, again, I apologize for such a brief stream. It was really great having you guys inside here. This is, I mean, again, as I said, I was definitely very self-conscious learning a game in front of so many seasoned players. I definitely, and most importantly too, I really like the fact that you guys were respectful for the learning element. So you guys were really good at kind of pointing out when I made, obvious blunders, which are just me not knowing any better. but still sort of allowed me to sort of work my way through and sort of see how the game works. I think it keeps the games fun for me. Hopefully the stream was mildly entertaining for you while you were waiting for queues or otherwise occupied. But I mean, it's, you know, the community of a game is actually something that really does have an influence on people's ability to enjoy it and whether or not people still hang around. And so you guys have been absolutely wonderful ambassadors for Prismata. I'm really looking forward to streaming this more often and, you know, eventually getting to a point where I feel confident enough in my understanding of the game to play a real match, either against the bots or, God forbid, real people. I already have it on good authority that there's a couple of top 10 players in the chat, so maybe you'll forgive me if I'm not too excited for playing against somebody who's at the top of the game. But yeah, this is definitely something I'm really looking forward to, and I'll do a more substantial stream of when I'm not dealing with sleep deprivation. Yeah, you can post anything that isn't just isn't anything that's obviously just, you know, hey, this streamer's better, and obviously things that are friendly to everybody. So play against you, then you're trash. Yeah, well, I mean, you've seen the goods, God Empress. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna find somebody to host tonight. I think W Shan may still be streaming. Unfortunately, I don't have many other people who play strategy games. I'm a little bit on my own in this respect. So if you guys can, well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do a proper raid, so I'll give a raid message and stuff like that. If you guys don't want to follow along, completely understand. You guys were here for Prismata. What I'd love to do, though, is W Shand is one of my favorite streamers on Twitch. Another guy who I've hung out with, so he's in the same city as me, Vancouver. He is currently playing a full-motion video game called Contradiction Spot the Liar, and he's doing the singing detective. So when people are subbing or donating to him, he's going to break out into song, either a song created specifically for the occasion. He has a band that he streams called Nat King Cobra on his other channel as well. But partner streamer, really entertaining guy. I think, you know, I think he's really great with Contradiction because the detective in that game is so overacted. It's a lot of fun watching. So if you guys are looking for just stuff to watch on Twitch in general, I strongly recommend it. We do have a message that we give along on our raids, which I'll post inside of the channel here if you want to copy and paste that. Oh. Ark and Nishu92, thank you so much for that follow. Guys, again, thank you so much for the support. I know it was a short stream. It was somebody just kind of bumbling around the game that you all love so much. You guys are really supportive, and I appreciate that. But I'm going to leave it with W Shand. If you guys want to hang out and check it out, I'd love it. And I'll drop the raid message and all of that inside of the channel. If you don't want to copy and paste it, that's fine as well. But it's always nice to let them know who sent you. All right, there's the link. I'm going to be hosting him right now. Thanks a lot again, guys, and I hope you guys have a great evening and enjoy this wonderful, wonderful game. Talk to you later.